do it real quick and get it done.
All right, you ready to get started? Okay, here's Dr. Dana Rice. The last 2 weeks, Carla Horton and I have talked about taking care of me, why it's important to take care of yourselves, that way you can take care of your patients. We've talked about burnout. We've talked about the possibility of starting up a resident wellness program. We've talked about how to incorporate exercise into your day, and we've also talked about how to try to eat a lot healthier while you're here, different tips and tricks of how to do that. Dr. Dana Rice is going to do part 3. She's going to talk about probably, I think, stress management, sleep, and touch on substance abuse. Not really in the manner that you think, but more, what are the legal substances out there that people use on a daily basis that can actually be abused?
All right. I tried to choose an interesting title. You guys know I'm an amateur history nerd. So I stole from a book I was reading about the Vietnam War. Some Marines had a saying about catastrophes. That's beating back a little bit, isn't it? Okay. How's that? Is that better? Okay. So if you're thinking about catastrophes, they think about them in 3 zones. Left of bang is you're safe, everything's going well, you don't have any problems. This is your preparatory stage if you're a Marine. Bang is the catastrophe. And then right of bang is all of the bad things that happen after bang. So the reason that they would teach Marines this is they wanted them to do everything in the whole wide world they could to stay left of bang. So they would say, clean your rifle, stay left of bang. Keep your ammo clean, left of bang. Change your socks, keep your feet dry, left of bang. The more things you can do to avoid a disaster, the better off you are. So I kind of like that because we're kind of keeping you guys, thank you. It doesn't work in here anyway. Is it feeding? Oh, is it feeding back? I'm sorry. You can turn it off if you want to. So the more things you can do to stay left of bang, the better Marine you are. Because once you go through bang, once a Marine, always a Marine, but you're not helping them very much. So we were thinking, or at least I was thinking, all of the things that I can help you with, that I can help you think of to keep you left of bang. Because bang happens. It happens no matter what you do, no matter how good you are. I'm weird about my car. I change my oil every 3,000 miles. My transmission fluid is always clean. My air filters are always good. I always use my seat belt. I set my speed at or below the speed limit. I use all my mirrors. I'm weird, okay? I'm very creepy. But no matter how good I am, no matter what I do, no matter how careful I am, on October the 21st, 2001, I couldn't keep a guy from running off of the interstate and stopping in my lane when I was going 60. And me flipping my truck 5, 6, 7 times, I don't know, I lost count, trying to avoid hitting him. So bang happened. And then I couldn't work. I had 2 seizures, a head injury, 2 seizures. I couldn't work because you can't be on call when you have seizures. So my student loans were a problem. My house note was a problem. My practice partners were a problem. They didn't like that very much. So right of bang was a big deal. I waited tables. I argued with my student loan company. I lived with my sister because I couldn't drive. So right of bang was a big deal. And I could not sleep. Head injuries are really hard on sleep. And right of bang took me about 6 months to be able to sleep through the night. No anxiety or anything, just because I got hurt and had a head injury. Hard to drive, hard to go past that intersection without my hands sweating. So it took a long time to get so far right of bang that I could sleep through the night, that I didn't have headaches a lot. Thank goodness my EEG went normal without having to go on any meds, and it was just a couple or 3 months. And I got to go back to work. And I guess my poor little Ford Explorer never got past bang. But thank goodness for it, it saved my life. So we're going to talk about a few things that you can do to stay as far left of bang as you can. Keep your rifle clean, keep your socks dry, keep your car at 75 or less. I don't have any financial disclosures. If you want to talk to me about it later, if you want to leave something on the table, that's great, but I don't have any right now. So we have a few objectives we want to reach this morning. Understand the high-risk environment in which physicians work and the impact on our personal lives. Understand the role of sleep and sleep disorders in stress, and understand the role of legal substances that are used to manipulate sleep. And I bet if I ask for a show of hands, every single one of you uses something to manipulate your sleep. I know I do. I'm not innocent. Okay, so the first thing I want to point out is I think Dr. Broussard talked about this. American physicians are second only to the American soldier in suicide rate. I really became acutely aware of this. A lot of you that are residents here know that I have two nephews that are in the military. One that just got hurt and got out, and then one that just got out because he was done. And it worried me. It definitely still worries me. I've got a friend that works with the Wounded Warrior Project. She's a Christian missionary, and she does the spiritual counseling at the camps for Wounded Warrior. And she's been telling me how about every 2 hours or so, we lose an American soldier or Marine or airman or sailor to suicide. We've lost way more American military people to suicide than we have in the Afghanistan and Iraq wars combined. That's ridiculous. And she's working with the Wounded Warrior Projects she does the spiritual counseling for them, hoping to help them and find what it is that they are missing. Well, impressive right behind them is that we lose about 400 American physicians every year to suicide that we know of. Okay, the reason I say that we know of is because there are some pretty strong suspicions in these guys that are doing these surveys, and they'll always mention it, that they think that a lot of the death certificates get doctored. When a doctor commits suicide. If there's a gunshot wound, it's accidental all of a sudden on the death certificate. Or if they take a handful of pills and a fifth of whiskey, then they just had cardiorespiratory arrest. They fell asleep and died. Well, of course they did, but they'll have accidental asphyxiation instead of hanging themselves. So they suspect that the suicide rate is higher than is reported. Now 400, if you think about 400 medical students, LSU has a little, what do you think? 500? LSU has a little over 400. They've got 500 medical students. So almost the entire medical school every year disappears to suicide amongst American physicians. And then there's, after us, there's quite a bit of drop down. Soldiers, military people, and then physicians, and then there's a drop down. And of course, there's a lot of other service-oriented people that are after that are also in the medical field that come in. But isn't that, it's disturbing. So Dr. Heal Thyself we're not doing. We're not taking good care of ourselves. We have social stressors. We push ourselves like you wouldn't believe, right? We get divorced. We don't know what our divorce rate is. I don't know if you had trouble finding a divorce rate for physicians, but I had a heck of a time because they think that we underreport that too. A lot of the surveys they do, only like 11, 12. One of the highest I saw was 19% of people responded to those surveys. So they think our divorce rate's higher than we report. And also we don't get married at the same rates that we used to. So we have significant relationships that dissolve and we don't report them as divorces because they're a common law spouse or a significant boyfriend, girlfriend that live with us or something like that. So the dissolution of significant relationships is huge, but we don't really know what the number is. So if you take the numbers that we have, then we're somewhere around the national average, 45, 50%. I don't know. But who knows, really? I think I read about, did you read about that program, the surgery program in the Northeast that doesn't want to be known who they are, but they brag to their people who come there to interview that they have a 100% divorce rate in their residency? Yeah, 100% divorce rate in their surgery residency. And I was reading this thing that was, it was an article that was about a survey that they did for physician divorce, and they mentioned it, and then you know, underneath people on the internet, they always make their comments. And they made their comments about who they thought it was. But I thought, who cares? Why are you bragging about that? That's terrible. That's horrible. And that's just in residency. Alienation of children, you know, you spend too much time at the hospital and not enough time at home, and kids think that you love the hospital more than you love them. Who knows? Loss of outside interest. You're an artist, you're a musician, you like to garden, you like to do whatever you like to do, horseback ride, whatever, and you miss it, and you don't do it because you're up here. So all of these social stressors, they combine. I'm sure they put stresses on marriage. What wouldn't? So sleep is, she picked me because I'm a chronic insomniac. Even before I had that head injury, I was a terrible sleeper. I felt bad for my mom and dad. If I think about it, it's terrible. Who knows how much I put them through. I have never been a good sleeper. So sleep is it a symptom of the problem or is it a problem? So you have to kind of delineate inside yourself. Maybe you need to even go see a sleep specialist, but you've got to think, is this a symptom of depression? Is this a symptom of something else that's going on inside my life? Or is this a sleep disorder that is causing me to be stressed? Insomnia is a sleep disorder. Parasomnia is sleepwalking, nightmares, night terrors, which, you know, usually younger. That non-24 that's getting so popular now on TV. And my favorite is the shift worker sleep disorder. And then, of course, are you abusing substances? If you start abusing substances, you start abusing alcohol, you start abusing legal or illegal substances, pain pills, even diphenhydramine to sleep, and you interrupt your sleep cycle. Are you abusing that, or do you have sleep problems that are causing all of your abuse? Or have you abused things that are causing you sleep problems? You have to delineate that. So, okay, so let's talk briefly about my favorite one, shift work sleep disorder. So I'm the night shift in the ER for people that don't know. I'm 8 to 8 on the weekends and 11 to 7 during the week, depending on what I'm working. And so this is a shift of your circadian rhythm that's associated with light-dark differentiation, okay? So we used to think that sleep was associated with social interaction. There are people, there are things to do during the day, so we're happy and we're up and doing things, and then at night that all calms down and we go to sleep. And night shift workers have happy night shift things to do, and they get involved with their work, and then they go home and they go to sleep because it's daytime and they're tired. But that's not true. There's the retinohypothalamic tract that picks up on light cues, sound, and you also have sound cues that go to the hypothalamus, and they change the way you perceive your circadian rhythm. So you flip it. Problem is you don't flip it completely, and you never flip it you never go to a complete opposite 24 hours. They've followed shift workers for 10, 15 years, and they never completely flip their clock. No matter what you do, you cover your eyes, whatever you do, you still can't completely switch your circadian rhythms. So shift workers usually have sufficient quantity, and if you've worked shift work, you know, and since a lot of residents are doing shift work now, we know that you can usually get sufficient quantity. You can go into your house because nobody is there, and you can pull down the curtains, and you can go to sleep, listen to your music or whatever you feel like you need to do, and you can power down and get sufficient quantity, but the quality is terrible. The REM cycle, they said the REM cycle is sometimes interrupted, sometimes it's shortened, all kinds of things with the REM cycle. You never get to have your complete restorative rest. So this kind of sleep disorder is associated with cardiovascular risk, weight gain, reproductive issues, and GI issues. And if you go down to the ER on the night shift and you find one single solitary person that doesn't say they have almost all of those, if not all of them, then they are telling you a story. Because they're either extremely underweight or they're overweight, right? They're either teeny tiny or they're big. They don't know when to go to the bathroom. have no idea when you get to go to the bathroom if you're able to, and you eat junk. You eat junk on the night shift, right? And as a survivor of a horrific OBGYN situation, I can tell you reproductive issues are out the wazoo, although mine were inherited, mine were genetic, but all of these things, we all have them. Every single one of us have them. So like I said, the retinohypothalamic tract regulates your sleep rhythm, and it's not your social interactions. I'm just going to testify on my behalf. If you come in my house in the middle of the day and I am in deep sleep, you could come in there and poke me in the eyeball and I wouldn't know it when I'm in my deep, deep sleep. My family comes in and out of my house, and they will come over there. The little boys, my great nephews, will poke me in the eye. No kidding. I'm literally telling you the truth, and I will sleep through it. So it's not the social interactions. It's not the cues from external, except for the light and the sound. And exhaustion will eventually hit you, which is what hits me. So eye covering and ear covering and blackout curtains, these all help. The most important time is the set sleep times. But if you're a shift worker and you go graveyard and you go swing shift and then you go graveyard and then you go swing shift, I don't know how you can ever do that. And it makes it worse. So technology blackouts are also helpful, but everybody's sleep is individual to them. I am a technology blackout. I don't have anything in my bedroom. I don't have a TV. I don't have a stereo. I have blackout curtains, and the lights are off and the fan is on, and that's what I go with. I find that sensory deprivation works for me, but if you get restorative sleep, that's fine, but generally technology blackouts are the best way to go. Maybe a wind down of technology. Some people do really well with soft music, winding them down, or Little House on the Prairie or something benign on TV, I don't know.
As far as the blackout curtains go, they can be really expensive, but two cheap things to do. If where you live it's allowed, foil works wonderfully. You put foil on your windows. It looks terrible from the outside, but it works great.
Foil works great.
The other thing that I found is get a tension spring rod and put that, and then take a flat black sheet that you can buy for $10 at Walmart and double that over that flat spring rod.
Absolutely.
And put that like inside of the blinds.
Yeah. The pull down blinds
too, and that's
work
like
great.
that's like $20.
Yeah. Pull down blinds work great.
See, I found the blinds, it wasn't dark enough, so that's why I put the double black sheet behind the blinds.
A nice sleeping mask, some good earplugs, whatever you've got to do to cover the light that's coming in. All of these things are helpful, but they are not perfect. I was laughing at the irony yesterday because I couldn't sleep. Okay, do legal substances help? So I read a lot getting ready for this. This was really cool being an amateur history nerd. I read a lot about sleep deprivation and torture and how governments all over the world for many hundreds of years have tortured people with sleep deprivation, and moved into legal substances. I decided I was going to leave all of the torture stuff out of it because residency is enough. But I want to talk to you about these substances. Now, before I get started with the substances, let me tell you, these things can be helpful aids. Every single thing that I've got up here can be a help to you. No kidding, even that. Everything that I've got up here can be a help to you. But let me have you pay attention. There are things up here that can be big, bad, and ugly, and can ruin your career and can ruin your life. And listen to me when I tell you that moderation in all things is wonderful. I don't care if you drink, it doesn't make any difference to me. But if you're having a hard time with it, if it's too much, you're doing it on a regular basis, you find yourself needing alcohol to wake up in the morning, you know the cage questions. You feel like you're getting in trouble because of it. If there are prescription medications that you have to have, you get angry without them. You find yourself bouncing around trying to find people that will help you get them. Those are problems. That's not what I'm talking about today. Those are problems. If you feel like you have a problem with something like that, if it's giving you that much grief, if your family is distressed by your use of these things, those are addictions, those are abuses, and you need to address those. And I'm just going to tell you that Dr. Broussard and I and these ladies that helped her last week, Carla, all three of us have agreed that we're going to be a penalty-free zone for such things. If you guys feel in your life that you're abusing or you're addicted to something and you want somebody to talk to decide if you need help, talk to one of the three of us. We're a penalty-free zone. Our lips are sealed. Nobody else will ever hear about it, but we'll help you get the help you need, okay? So what I'm talking about is moderated use. But I want you to be aware that of all of this self-help stuff, you want to stay way left of bang, then addiction and abuse are where you need to start. If you're having trouble with any of it, even with this, I'll even help you with that. I don't smoke, I have asthma, but I'll help you. Okay, so let's talk about a few of these things. What do we know from the most recent studies about whether these things help? Melatonin, you've always heard wonderful things about. First of all, I want to point out that melatonin is not regulated, so when you buy melatonin in the health food store or something like that, you can't tell how many milligrams is in each pill. It may have nothing in one pill and be nothing but melatonin in the next pill. You have no idea. Now there are the USP that you see on those labels. That is a regulatory agency. It's not in the United States. It's in Germany. And USP, it says US on it, I know, but it's actually in Germany. And they do check on these companies and help with making sure that they have what they say they have in them. They're not 100% though. So if you're using a dietary supplement, just be aware of that. I'm not totally against dietary supplements. I take vitamins, I take whatever I need mineral-wise. Actually, I take Fruit Juice Plus, but I don't know how much juice is really in those things. I feel like I feel better. Not very scientific. So, knowing that, there is some low-quality evidence that melatonin improves sleep length after a night shift. But statistically, when they get down to statistically, it was not statistically significant in any other parameter, okay? So you may be able to induce sleep. It helps a little bit with sleep latency, but really, seriously, probably 4 or 5 studies I looked at, and then I looked at a meta-analysis. Melatonin has some subjective qualities to it, but statistically, it wasn't that big a deal. If it helps you, wonderful. Nothing wrong with it, but if you're looking at the scientific studies, it doesn't do just a whole heck of a lot. Now here's something that diphenhydramine, we've gone back and forth on diphenhydramine. So the older studies, the ones that I was used to, that I preached about when I talked to night shift nurses and such in the ER, I tell them not to use diphenhydramine because it decreases to completely eliminate your REM cycle. I always say that. Please don't get used to it. Don't get hooked on using diphenhydramine. You will go through cycles where you have to use it to go to sleep. You miss your REM, you miss your REM, you miss your REM, and then you crash. And you have to have restorative sleep. Hopefully it's on your Saturday, but you don't know. What if it's on your Tuesday? You don't know. So I've always preached to them about diphenhydramine. Now the newer studies now are showing that there's a small population, and when I say small, I mean 1 to 2% of the people they studied do get some increased restorative sleep with diphenhydramine. Small doses, 12.5 milligrams and 25 milligrams. Not 50 and not 100, which some of the nurses in the ER will say, I go home and take 4 Benadryl and go to sleep. Oh my gosh, don't do that. I'd be scared that I wouldn't wake up. Actually, again, more anecdotal stuff. I have the paradoxical reaction. If I take a Benadryl, I won't sleep for 2 days. So I certainly don't take Benadryl. But most people do not go through their REM cycles. Most people will drop off, slowly drop off, and lose their REM cycle completely and then have to have a large restorative sleep. Okay, so commercials, New Vigil, Pro Vigil. These things are things that you're supposed to take when you're a shift worker, at the beginning of your shift. It's supposed to be kind of like caffeine for a boost, and it's supposed to increase your alertness and increase your response times. And they wanted firemen, they wanted police, they wanted EMS, ER nurses to really grab a hold of New Vigil and Provigil and use them so that they could have that burst at the first of their shift and then be able to go home and go to sleep. And I've noticed that it hasn't really caught on. Hadn't catched. What am I, from Texas? What is that? It hasn't really caught on. And I haven't seen that many ER nurses that claim they use it. A few of them tried it, but I haven't seen that many that said they use it. So I started looking into it, and I think that this may be the reason why. They were thinking you would decrease mistakes and increase alertness, and for the people that needed to have increased response, like police and firemen, it would increase their response times, but 50 milliseconds is the increased reaction time. And it increased their sleep scale by 1 point. So, and these were people with shift work sleep disorders. Yes, ma'am.
I had a question about the diphenhydramine.
Yeah.
Is it like an additive effect? So you were saying that it can decrease your REM cycle and then it could eliminate it. So if you were like taking it every day and then eventually it would knock off your...
Right. And it's not over months or anything. You take it on the first day and your REM cycle's a little shorter, and the third day, fourth day, who knows, depending on the person, it's gone. So then you would have to, on maybe 6, 7, 8 day, get your long restorative sleep. Yeah. So yeah, it's kind of cumulative. And diphenhydramine was one of those things that it was real hard to get to pin down as far as the studies, because the studies are real small sample sizes, and some of them, the statistics, I couldn't even understand. I thought, well, you either are doing them wrong or I don't understand what you're doing. So I wasn't trusting all of them. So I'm telling you kind of a cumulative of everything that I read, trying to piece it together and make sense of it, because some of them, you know, just trying to make the story fit together. So that's what okay. So anyway, this hasn't really caught on. It may help some people slightly, but not as big a deal as they thought. Okay. So hypnotics, I hadn't really heard of this Imovane before I started doing all this reading, but it's a hypnotic, and it had no significant increase in length of sleep or quality compared to placebo. And that was a pretty big study, 700 and something people, and they didn't have any increase at all. So alcohol, in all things moderation. So a small amount, 4 ounces in the evening or in the morning as you're trying to go to sleep. People, right? If 9 o'clock in the morning is your bedtime, 9 o'clock in the morning is my bedtime. And if a small amount, 4 ounces, that's not a 6-pack, it's not a 12-pack, it's 4 ounces of wine, which I guess would probably be a smaller amount of liquor. You can tell I'm a big drinker, right? And which is roughly a half a beer, I guess. And those helped people to relax and be able to catch some sleep. It didn't change the restorative pattern of the sleep. It didn't do anything to increase the length. It basically was just kind of a relaxant. So in all things moderation, if you know, 2 to 4 ounces of wine help you go to sleep, that's fine. But again, large amounts, not so much. Caffeine. Oh my gosh, this is my problem. If we had a CA instead of AA, I might have to be a member. Oh my goodness. I love caffeine. I love coffee. And so is it your friend or foe? I really wanted it to be my friend. So I read a lot trying to make it my friend. It's really not. But if you are going to drink caffeine, and we know we are, timing is everything. So this timing was based on people who go to work at 8 p.m. and they get off at 8 a.m., 12-hour shifts. So if you take a bolus, as they called it, you take a bolus of caffeine when you wake at 6 p.m. I love that. Is half of a pot of coffee a bolus? Because that's what I do. And then you get to work And between 22:30 and 01:30, you take another smaller bolus. Really, their boluses were 1 cup of coffee. Wimps. A smidge. That was their bolus. So they had people taking 1 cup of coffee when they woke up and 1 cup of coffee between this time period. And they found that they were able to fall asleep productively by 9 a.m. and fall easily asleep, go into their appropriate patterns of sleep, and not be interrupted. Now you guys know Donnie that works in the ER. No kidding. Donnie drinks a pot of coffee when he wakes up. He drinks a 2 liter of Diet Coke while he's at work, plus coffee if I'll make it for him. And then when he goes home, he drinks a pot of coffee while he sits on the edge of the bed and goes to sleep. There are people that can do that. Anecdotally, there are people that can do that. The truth is that as much as I love coffee, really when I'm working and I'm awake at night, I drink a cup to a cup and a half when I wake up. I drink a cup about 2 o'clock in the morning, and then I don't have anything else. I drink water the rest of the time. I do love the stuff, but I do watch myself when I'm at work, trying to make myself go through the appropriate sleep cycles. But caffeine can be manipulated, kind of. So this brings me to using things as a pick-me-up to wake up. I know almost all of us do it with Diet Dr. Pepper, or we do it with Coke or whatever. Okay, which I'm guilty of, and it's probably not a horrible thing, but wake me up versus springing up. There are people that people used to use ephedrine. I don't know if ephedrine used to be still legal in Louisiana. I think they've outlawed it. I think there are still ways to. Yeah, I think there are. Yeah. A lot of the ER nurses used to still be able to get it. There was a pharmacy down in Natchitoches they could get it from until about 2 or 3 years ago. I haven't heard anything recently, but they could still get it down there, and it was legal. Pseudoephedrine, some people still use. Watch yourselves. Oh my goodness, watch yourselves. Think about the cardiovascular risk of that. Think about your blood pressure. Those pick-me-ups may help you in the short term, but in the long term, are they really good for you? I have a nurse that I love dearly. He's a wonderful guy, but I just could not live his life. He would take an ephedrine when he woke up, and then when it was still over the counter, he would take it and plow through the day and drink Monster drinks and Red Bulls, and then go home and take 4 Diphenhydramine and go to sleep. Wow, that's no way to live. That's a really hard thing to do. So, nicotine. Nicotine's also a pick-me-up. Hoorah! So, I'm so proud of the ER nurses that have gone to the little vapes. I know that they're not real popular with a lot of people, but they were out there smoking and lighting them from the other end. So they now can smell things and they now can breathe. So what they've reported to me, and what was interesting, the first thing that I read was that smokers have longer sleep latencies and they have funky dreams. And some of the nurses have told me that they quit having the funky dreams. So it can increase your REM and sleep quality in depressed patients. So if you're smoking or something, or if you have a patch and it's making you sleep better, you might want to ask yourself depression scale questions. So in non-depressed patients, non-smokers, there's a very, very, very decreased quality of restorative sleep no matter when you take the nicotine. These were in people that they were putting patches on, so it was kind of an extended release. They weren't smoking. Obviously, they're non-smokers, but they had nightmares and very poor sleep. I watched a video of it. It was really disturbing. These poor people. Energy drinks. Talk about a pick-me-up. Okay, energy drinks. You guys may not know this. These are not classified as soft drinks. These are classified as dietary supplements. So they have the same problem melatonin does. They took a special brand that we all know and love from downstairs, and they tested the amount of caffeine that was in these drinks versus how much is reported on the side, and there was sometimes a 400% difference between what was reported on the side and what's actually in those drinks. Are you scared yet? Because you guys slam those things. I see you do it. So blood pressure, arrhythmias, anything cardiovascular you can think of. You know, you read those horror stories about teenagers going into arrhythmias because of these or seizures because of these, and I imagine it's probably because they're slamming them and they don't know how much caffeine's in them. And then there's the sugar overload. Some of these guys are sugar-free, but a lot of them have massive amounts of sugar. So you're in your 20s now, maybe early 30s, and you think that's wonderful, that you can handle it. But wait till 40 hits you. That crazy amount of sugar will pop back and snap on you. Okay, so we're encouraging you, Dr. Broussard and I are encouraging you to take care of yourselves. We're giving you pointers, we're telling you things that are interesting, but really, really, really embrace your spirituality. Exercise. I don't care what religion you are or what spirituality you are. Embrace it. Spend some time every day in it. Exercise just a little bit every day if you can't do a lot. In all things matter in moderation, except how much you love your God, your family, your country, whatever it is that you love a lot, love them. Be happier. Sleep better. Express yourself. Be artistic. Even though you're in residency, take a few times a week for yourself and do something that you love with somebody you love. Spend time with them and make sure that they know how much you care about them. You can't always avoid your bang, but do your best to stay to the left, okay? All right? So hopefully we've met our objectives for the day. Is there anybody that has anything they want to add? Anybody have questions? Anybody have anything they want to throw out?
About the Provigil and Nuvigil, that is probably a reason why it hasn't been as widely embraced. I thought it was pretty expensive, but I looked it up and it's $500 a month for Nuvigil and $1,000 a month for Provigil.
Oh my goodness. No wonder nobody's using it. Wow.
Alcohol's much cheaper.
Says the lady that is your safe zone.
I did that in high school and college.
Okay, guys, well, thank you for coming. We appreciate it. If there's anything we can do for you, you know we're here.